this is where the big brain comes out. This is where we make this 6x6 build way easier than any you've ever tried before. What's up everyone, welcome to the Speedcube.co.nz YouTube channel. My name is Mike and today I am going to show you a new easy way, what I think is probably the easiest way to rebuild a magnetic 6x6 Speedcube. Before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you've got a friend with a sad 6x6, share this video with them. Maybe we can get them back to solving that thing ASAP. There's a lot of information in this video, so I've separated it all out into chapters. You can find them down in the description. And I'm just going to start here with some tips on how to use this video, okay? Tip number one, I highly recommend watching the video first before you start your build, just so you can have a think about what's lying ahead of you, what you've got to plan, all this kind of stuff, what you might need. Number two, organize your parts as well. After you've watched the video, you'll see how I've got mine organized. I would recommend doing that in the same way, and also counting the parts to make sure that you don't get 99% through the build and realize you've lost something. There is a full list of what you need and how many of each thing you need down in the description as well. Number three is be patient, okay? This is a tricky puzzle to rebuild. This is the easiest way to do it. It doesn't mean it's easy. Does that make sense? If you find that a bit collapses or a bit falls apart, just go back to the previous steps, start again, be patient, you've got this, I believe in you, you can do it, it's gonna be fine. And number four, I would recommend you try and carve out like an hour. If you're gonna attempt this, you're probably gonna want an hour to do it properly. Allowing for mistakes, allowing for working out what I'm talking about if I've not been clear about something. But I think I've been pretty solid in this one. There's a lot of information, it comes at you pretty fast, but I think it's all there and it's gonna see you right. Okay. That's probably enough waffle. The way the video is going to work is I'm going to start by showing you all the individual pieces and then get into the build. Again, chapters are down below. So if you think you know what you're doing with the pieces, just skip them, go ahead to the build. Have fun, good luck, I believe in you. You've got this. All right, let's get stuck in. So today, the only tool we're going to need for this rebuild of a magnetic 6x6 is our Phillips head screwdriver for our center screws. This, of course, is the core of the puzzle. We're going to need that. This is our center assembly. It's made up of this, the true center plate, the center stem here, and as well as that, a spring and a screw. The screw goes in the spring, the screw then goes in the center stem, and the stem goes in the center plate. This is our largest internal piece. It looks a little bit like an edge on the inside there. We have two small internal pieces, a 2-step and a 1-step. That's how I'm going to refer to them. You can tell by the amount of steps on the inside. They fit together nice and neat like that, and then they go on the two ends of the large internal piece. That's how they work inside the puzzle. Now, I probably don't need to tell you that this is an edge. An edge on a 6x6 is made up of 4 pieces. There is an outside edge with a bit of a stem, and then there is an inside edge which has kind of a hook on it. This, of course, is a corner. It looks like a corner from any other puzzle, but with a bit of a longer stem on it. Now we have 16 pieces that make up the centers. These first ones, there's 4 of these, and they make up the 4 squares in the middle, the center of the center. You can spot them because they've got these big plates on them. We also have 4 of these center edge pairs. There's 4 one way and 4 the other, 8 altogether. You can spot them because they've got the hooks on them. Then finally we have 4 of these center corners, okay, the corners of the centers. So we're now getting into building our first part. The core has these notches that match to the center stems. They must be matched perfectly if you want the puzzle to work once you've finished building it. So the first thing we're doing is attaching one of our center assemblies to the core reasonably tight, so it's got just a few mil of flex on it. Not like fully tight, but also not flapping around too loose. These are the bits we're going to need for stage 1 of this build. 4 edges, some 16 centers, and 4 corners. We're also going to use some of these internals in a bit, but we'll get to that as we need to. So we're going to build face down on our bench. First of all, matching up 2 center centers, and then a pair of center edges are going to wedge in beside them. We're then going to take another 2 center edges. They are a pair, but we're going to split them up and put 1 on each side, fitting them just gently together because these parts aren't magnetized, so be super careful with these. And we're building up our 4 and 2 here, 4 from the middle of the center and 2 from the edge. Now our corners of our center are going on. Carefully just putting those together, so we now have 2 rows of 4, 8 tiles from 1/2 of our center. I hope that makes sense. We're now going to introduce an edge. I'm going to go for green because I always put green at the back when I'm solving. Just put those together so they're sitting in the right place. We're now going to add in the corners that have the green parts on them. Carefully now, because these magnets can make your pieces skite across the table and smash all the hard work you've done. So just hold on to the edge as you add those corners. We also now need half of the orange and red edges. Match those up, so we've got like a U shape, a big U of magnetic pieces with the half of the center nestled in between them. Now, what we've just done, just do the same again. 2 centers, a pair of center edges and another pair of center edges split. Then add your center corners, all the while just using the flat surface of the table to keep these all nice and neat. Keep these all even and together. Very gently working those pieces together. And just the same as before, grab an edge, carefully attach the corners magnetically to that edge, and then put the last edge halves onto there. And hey presto, look at that. We've got 2 halves of our first face. Now, grab your core and first center assembly and use the magnetism of these pieces to just catch that in the middle. Don't lift it up at this point, for goodness sake, it's so fragile. Now we're going to add in our first internal pieces. These are single step internal pieces. They're going to fit into the little grooves we've made with our center edges. Next, we're going to want our 2-step small internals. They're just going to wedge on top of there. There shouldn't be any resistance at this point. Everything should just slot together nicely. If there is resistance, you've done something wrong or you're doing something wrong, okay? Next, we're going to grab our large internals. 1, 2, 3, you guessed it, 4. Get those all in there, and that is the end of layer 1, everyone. Well done. Looks good. At this point, you can very carefully pick it up because it's got a little bit of integrity, but I don't recommend it. Just leave that thing on the table. It's all good. Okay, let's move on to our next layer, starting with our corners. Again, these are magnetic, so they're just going to snap on there. Nice and easy, nice and neat, all aligned and lovely. Everything, like I said, should be really easy to put together at this point. So we're going to build the next layer of our center here with 2 center corners and a matched pair of center edges. Again, center corners, I should say, and a matched pair of center edges. You got to do that 4 times, obviously, 1 for each color. There we are. There's our green ones and there's our red ones. We're now going to go straight on to layer 3. Same again, the corners go on. But this time you're going to start with your matched center edges, and they're going to go this time with the hooks, sort of open part of the hooks facing up. Then you're going to want a couple of the centers, the ones with the plates, the ones that go right in the middle. If you want to watch that in detail again, go and watch the red side being built again. For now, I'm just going to pop the last blue part in. I'm going to pop the last orange part in. And there we are, the green side is done as well. We're looking good, 3 layers in. Next, we'll add some internals. We'll go 2-step first, then a 1-step, just the way I've done it here. Okay, 2-step, and then a 1-step, leaving a nice flat surface on the top. 2-step and 1-step, easy as. So that happens 4 times. Now we are very, very carefully going to introduce our core assemblies to these 4 horizontal points on the core. Take the spring and the screw out at this point, I didn't mention that, and be very careful that they fit. Be very careful not to trash the sides that you've just built, the centers I should say on the side. This is probably the most fragile part of the puzzle. We're just trying to introduce some structural integrity to it now, especially by adding the screws. Now, very, very carefully get these screws into the core. Be careful not to thread them, just enough pressure to get them to catch properly and go in. At this point, I like to go a 180 and do the opposite one of the one that I've just screwed in. So I've got blue and green here. See how my orange and red are kind of squeezing out there? Just be super careful that you don't dump one of your centers out from the other side. So I'm using my whole hand here to try and hold the thing together, just to give it a little bit more strength while I get these screws in. So we now have a total of 5 center assemblies added to our core. And this puzzle's starting to come together now, people. We're going to build in this next stage pretty much like an equator of internal parts. So we're going to take a pair, a 1-step and a 2-step, and pop them in beside one center plate, and then the same on the opposite side. Then we're going to take our large internal piece, and by wedging the large plate of that large internal behind the 2 internal pairs, we're going to just wedge it in behind them. And it is going to go. If you're really having trouble, you might need to loosen off those 4 screws you've just put in, but it does find its way relatively easily. You'll see that just pop in there. Just keep putting the puzzle back together. After any sort of big movement, just check that the puzzle's still sitting together and is all happy. So we do that a total of 4 times. This last one will be the tightest because it's the one that's putting that final piece of tension on that circuit. And doesn't that look cool? It looks like something out of the movie Tron. How awesome. Okay, now I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, and I'm adding 2 edge pieces to each edge. I'm just going wild, going absolutely wild now. I'm going to build up these centers. So we're going to start with our pair of matched center edges. This time the open part of the hook is going down, and our centers are going in with the plate facing up. So it's the opposite of what we've done on the first 3 layers. Next, we're looking for our center corners. They're going to sit on top here with the stems pointing down towards the core. And then finally, the last matched pair of center edges are going to go in and again create that gap for those small internals to drop into. You can go and watch that bit again if you want, but there we are. We build up the other 3 sides, and now we're going to drop in the small step internals, sorry, the 1-step internals, I should say. 1-step internals, 4 of them, 1 into each colored groove. There we are, looking good. Nice and careful though, because those centers can fall out. Then our 2 steps go in on top to finish the little assembly. And that is the end of our first section that we're going to build, because this is where the big brain comes out. This is where we make this 6x6 build way easier than any you've ever tried before. Okay, so starting again from the beginning, we've got 4 corners, 4 edge assemblies, and 16 center parts. Just like before, we are going to build up our center using the table, the flat part, to keep everything together and happy. Start with the centers, then your pair of matched center edges, then your center corners. This sounds like gibberish, doesn't it? Then add in an edge. Again, I like green at the back. That's just how I roll. The green's gonna just nudge up against those center pieces. Add your corners carefully. Don't let the magnets wreck the work you've done. Add those half edges in. Then hey, guess what? Do the same thing again, just like at the start of the build. Repeat that process and get ready for the magnets in these pieces to munch the center assembly. This time though, we're going to take the screw and spring out. And we're just going to put the center plate and the stem inside this layer assembly. Let the magnets do their thing. Eat that up. Then we're going to add the internals again, the small ones first. Sorry, the 1-step internals first. Then the 2-step internals on top of them, and then we're gonna go looking for these big internals. 4 of those are gonna go in again, nice and easy. There's a little groove that goes behind the base of the corner stems in this model. I think that's fairly standard as well. So now what have we got here? We've basically got a lid for a box, and we're now going to put the top of this lid on. You must make sure that the stem in your top of this box is matched up with the core inside the box. Remember, the core and the stem assemblies have to match or this puzzle will not work. So check that before you put the lid on. We're then going to very carefully and very gently manipulate our screw and spring into the hole in the stem where it's meant to be. Give it a little jiggery to find its space in the core. Screw it into the core until the tensions feel like a regular 6x6. If you're going to turn at this point, just do it so slowly. In fact, don't even do it until you've tensioned up all 6 sides and it's feeling good. But there you are. That is the easy way to rebuild a magnetic 6x6 Speedcube. And that's it. It's done. Well, there we have it, everyone. We rebuilt a 6x6. I hope you did it. I hope you made it. I hope you didn't lose your mind and throw the 6x6 out the window. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video and you want to see more of these, I'm going to do a lot more tutorials soon. Please click subscribe. It doesn't cost you a thing, but it means the world to me. If you could subscribe down below and share the video with anyone that you know who needs a 6x6 rebuild tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.